Cuckoo, everybody, and welcome to another Weight Loss Wednesday. So I was a little bit delayed there, but I had to fire up the laptop for this one because I scheduled them on the laptop, unfortunately, that only lets me go through them. But as you now know, I can do them via the phone. Thank you to all you kind people that subscribe. So today's lesson, as I've said it before, the Wednesday lessons are going to have a predetermined topic. So for those that tune in, they've got a rough idea, and it can channel the conversation a bit more. And it also means that you'll then have backup lessons to go back on, and you'll know the exact titles. And this week's lesson is all about endorphins, because when we do our health and wellness, you might hear things about endorphins. That's the things that people can get addicted to, like, oh, the endorphins are flowing, had a great workout, all that kind of jazz. But a lot of people don't always experience that same level of happiness or high, and they don't fully understand what endorphins are. So I'm going to delve into them, keep it as simple as possible, and hopefully it will unlock a different viewpoint on what endorphins are and how you can take advantage of them. So endorphins are a neurotransmitter. They're sometimes known as one of the happy hormones. They are released during exercise or activity, anything strenuous based or even lightly strenuous. But they can also be released via UV light, doing naughty things, dancing, singing. Not the same dancing and singing as naughty things. I was just getting that one out of the way nice and quick. There's lots of ways to release them, but one of the most common ones is strenuous activity. Now, when you think about it, when I mentioned UV light, when you talk about getting outside for a bit of fresh air, it can then release a feeling of feeling good. You know, it's endorphins. Endorphins are a way of lowering stress, making you feel happy, making your sense of well-being improved. But what people don't realize is that endorphins, in their very simplest form, is the body's natural pain relief system. If you keep it as simple as that, people think of it as a happy hormone, and I guess it is, right? But it's your body's natural pain relief. And it comes into the system when your body is under, more often than not, some form of physical stress. Now, if you've ever tried, I'll say running. If you've ever tried running or got back into running, anybody will say that the first 5 to 10 minutes are always the worst. They're like, oh my goodness, it was the first mile was the worst, or the first half a mile, or whatever it may be, before they get into their groove. And a lot of the times they just think it's because it takes their body a bit of time to warm up or get used to the format that you're giving it, the demand that you're placing on it. But ultimately, what's happened is you've set off into a run and you've put your body under physical strain. Prior to the run, I'm just using running as an example, any other workout is similar as well. But prior to the run, you were probably at a form of rest or certainly in a position of more comfort. And you were comfortable, and now you've increased the demand on the body that is making you uncomfortable. Now, let's face it, in this day and age, right, we don't have to run. We don't have to lift weights either, not really. Right? If we break it down, we know why we should. We know why we should stay fit and healthy, but we don't have to, right? Because our lives are so much more cushioned and protected than they used to be. Now, let's just say you rewind time 2,000 years, 3,000 years, when life was a little bit more hostile, then you probably would need to be able to run or avoid danger or hunt and do all these sorts of things. But us in 2024, let's be fair, we don't really need to run. We don't need to lift stuff as such, heavy stuff and pump iron. So it's always that conscious effort. We know that improving cardiovascular system, challenging muscles is good for keeping us healthy. But there's nothing forcing us doing it other than knowing the consequences of not doing it. And that's not the same thing. So when you set off on a run, off you go, you're uncomfortable in the back of your mind saying, I'd much rather be on the sofa watching Netflix, right? So you're going and going, you're not enjoying it. In fact, you go as far as hating it, hating it, hating it. But then guess what happens? Eventually your body will do you a favor and it will release pain relievers into the body in the form of endorphins. Okay. They'll start off in small dosages. So all of a sudden that pace you're going becomes manageable. All of a sudden the discomfort of the breathing becomes manageable. And then before you know it, you're into an automatic mode and you think, oh, I can do this. And it's because the endorphins are in the system. And then As you then get going with regular running or regular workouts or regular even stretching can trigger them as well. And you start to get a feel good benefit from the endorphins. And they don't just stop the minute you stop your exercise. It's not like they instantly, there's a knock on effect, there's a lingering effect, which is why afterwards you feel wholesome, you feel like you've challenged yourself, you feel good, you feel happy, you feel complete. And that's a mixture of the pain relief of the endorphins coupled with the fact you know you've done something that's good for you, right? So, how do we hack these for your results? Well, understanding that the first 5 to 10 minutes of anything you do is going to suck because you don't have the pain relief system that your body is going to be delivering. So what do you do to get around it? Well, a proper warm up usually goes a long way because it gets you on the road to getting those endorphins released. I think we talked about it in the past here. Hi, Anne-Marie. Um, we've talked about it in the past where if you're not in the mood to get exercise, and I've always said start the warm up, do some good mornings. And the reason for doing that is that if you're sat on the sofa, I'm just being a bit of a twang here. Not everybody sits on the sofa all day. I'm just using that as an example because if I'm not in the mood for exercise, I'm likely sitting on the sofa. And the minute you stand up, you're much more likely to do something than you ever were when you were sitting at rest. When you start doing good mornings, you start raising the pulse, raising the body temperature, raising the breathing, all that good stuff, okay? And you're starting the timer for the body to release endorphins further down the line. So if you start endorphins early, right, you get them moving. Then what happens is when you, with a proper warm up, when you then go to do the strenuous or more strenuous activity, you will get the endorphins flowing faster. Remember that one of the points of a warm up is to warm up the body for exercise, but it's also to take you away from rest and towards activity. And you know what it's like when you first start activity, when you've been at rest, you're like, oh, well, because let's face it, in this day and age, depending on where you live, but for the vast majority of people, we have warm environments that we can live in. Some of you have got a little bit too warm environments, but you've got a warm environment and therefore you're cozy, you're comfortable. Let's be fair. It's not like the old days when we all lived in little shacks and everything was cold and the idea of doing activity was great because it would warm you up. You're like, I want to move to get warm, you know? So a lot of time we're at nice, cozy when we're at rest, right? You know, if we've got a rainy day, we sit in by the fire, we can stay cozy, we've got food at our disposal, entertainment at our disposal. Everything's there for us, you know. Even if you're short of food in your house, you can get someone to deliver it to you, right? Now, I'm not picking on society as a whole, but I'm trying to point out that when we are comfortable, we can be very, very comfortable. Therefore, making the change to being active at any given time is quite a challenge. So every time you embark on that challenge, give yourself a pat on the back. Just be like, right, I got up and I got going. But also show yourself some compassion because when you first get up to get going, you're going from rest, from comfort to activity and discomfort. It's like, oh, it's not going to be great initially. And guess what? Your princess side's going to come out. You're like, oh, why am I doing this? I don't need to do this. I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I'm uncomfortable. Historically, I used to be so stroppy on a Sunday morning because I used to teach a spin class in the gym and I used to have been out on the Saturday night. And basically what used to happen, the members thought this was hilarious. They said it used to take me 2 tracks before I came to life. And I used to have that in my head. I was always like, oh, well, that was because once I broke a sweat, I was then in the groove of it. But I remember I'd be getting on the bike. I was tired. I was not feeling great. This was prior to me being immortal. And I was like, and then it took 2 tracks in to break a sweat, to get the endorphins flowing. And then all of a sudden, I was like, right, Coach Rab's back in the game. And then I'd come to life, and they all knew that. My point is that when you've gone from rest into activity, right, you're embracing discomfort, but your body isn't accustomed to it. It's not accustomed to it yet because it hasn't injected you as such with pain relief, which it will do in the form of endorphins. So the next time, and Susan, you mentioned your cross trainer, the next time you're on that cross trainer and it sucks, you're just like, oh, this is just no, I'm not enjoying this. I don't want to do this. And as I said earlier, in life, none of us has to exercise, not really. None of us have to lift weights. We know the benefit of doing it, but in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word, in the life that we lead, we could be sedentary, the majority of us, if we really, really wanted to. We know that's not healthy, 100%. That would affect you later in life. Absolutely. You would gain weight gradually or dramatically over time, and you would have a lot of issues with health. We know that. But fundamentally, nobody's cracking the whip and says, you have to go and do this. The only person that's cracking the whip is your desire to improve your health and wellness, which is great once the workout's done and you're feeling wholesome. It's not so great when you're starting the workout and the endorphins haven't kicked in and you're questioning why on earth you're putting yourself in such an uncomfortable situation. I guess that's a long, waffly way of saying, hang in there. The pain relief is coming. You know, when you're trundling away, whether it's a cross trainer or you're doing kettlebell lifts or swings or squats or as I recommended earlier, if you do good mornings, if you get the warm up started, that'll get you get you closer to that endorphin release and then get going with it. And anytime it really starts to struggle, just remind yourself the pain relief is on its way. Your body will send assistance. And when it gets there, you're like, oh, this isn't so bad after all. I mean, how many of you, whether it's a class with myself or a class that you've gone to, you know, if it was a new class, for example, the first 5 minutes, you're thinking, where's the exit? I can't make this. And then before you know it, 10 minutes have passed, you think, oh, that's not so bad. And then you're like, oh, there's only 15 minutes to go. And then you're into the stretches. And then afterwards, you're like, that was really, really good. And then the lingering effects of endorphins, you feel wholesome, you feel great, and all that good stuff, right? So the reason for the lesson today is to remind yourself that and the endorphins fundamentally are your body's pain relief. That's what their main job is there to do. So when they kick in, and they will kick in, that will give you a form of pain relief. Now, I'm not saying it's physical from the perspective of a burning shoulder is going to stop burning. That's not what it means. It reduces your overall stress and anxiety and the emotional pain you're feeling from the discomfort. And you'll know it yourself when you've just soldiered on. I mean, you know, Anne-Marie, you were on the retreat and you did amazing on the workouts. Um, I'm pretty sure in the first 5 minutes, like everybody else doing the workout, they're thinking, what have I got myself in for? What have I got myself in for? What have I got myself in for? But you all made it through every single workout because the endorphins kicked in. So the next time you're struggling, just remind yourself or just keep telling yourself, help is on its way, help is on its way, help is on its way. And it will get there 100%. I've not yet ever heard of a condition, and maybe I've just jinxed myself, touch wood, of somebody who does not have functioning endorphins. Okay. There's probably is. The world's filled with what, 7 billion people, 8 billion, whatever it is. But endorphins are there as our pain relief. So you, there's nothing you can necessarily do to speed that up. You know, sometimes intensity gets you there quicker. But my advice would be do some good mornings to start the warm up, get yourself a little bit uncomfortable between body temperature, do some stretching, then start your routine. And when the going gets tough, if you have to keep looking at the clock, slice things up. Just think to yourself, it's roughly 10 minutes until the endorphins, roughly, it varies from person to person, but if you slice it up, each working set of a class will be 1 minute to 90 seconds. And then there's some stretching. Now, the endorphin clock doesn't stop when you're stretching, it's still ticking. So if you're in a class and doing a workout, you do your minute to 90 seconds and then you stretch for probably another 45. Guess what? You're 20% of the way there. 4 more sets, help is on its way. You've got your endorphins, you'll get through the workout, you're cooking with gas. And remember as well that, you know, if you're having a bad day, it's just time. You know, you don't always have to be blasting out the weights or working to the same intensity. Those endorphins are on their way regardless. So there we are. Little lesson on endorphins. If you have any questions, fire away. I will repeat all the comments here. I'll work through them when people are thinking of questions. But I wanted to just cover that because I completely understand and with workouts and that feeling of trying to break the inertia. We all experience it in different forms of workouts. I notice it. I have a real kind of. I don't mind it when I'm running because I've got over that. But where I experience it is when if I'm feeling nice and clean in my workout gear, and there's that element of, and I know I'm going to get uber sweaty until I've broken a sweat. I'm almost like pussy. Sorry to use the term pussyfooting around, but it's an old rugby phrase. I maybe probably shouldn't use that. I was tiptoeing around, watching what I was doing, getting a drink, watching, taking it easy. But then once you break a sweat, you're like, well, I'm sweating now, I'm going for it. But you can find yourself almost being like, well, I don't really want to be sweaty. A perfect example is I remember there was a period of time I used to cycle to my work, but then I stopped doing that because I didn't like to get to work sweaty. Now that's me being precious. And the reason I'm saying that is that, again, workouts affect us in lots of different ways, or our resistance to workouts affect us. Now, for me personally, I have no issue lifting weights. I've got no issue running, and I've certainly got no issue sprinting. I love all that. But the resistance I have is getting sweaty, really sweaty, when I've then got to go and do something else afterwards. So I'm one of those princesses that be like, oh, I don't want to get sweaty. So I'd end up just leaving earlier and walking the same distance to work. Nice and gradual walk. Now, and then there's other people like, just cycle, Rab, you get much better workout. I'm like, but yeah, but then I get there sweaty. So that's me personally. And I'm saying that because you'll all have your things. Some people will be completely okay with cardio, and the thought of doing weights is just like, oh, I don't want to do weights. Or the other way around. Sometimes you really enjoy the weights and it's your cardio. My point is that when you're experiencing those kind of resistance to the discomfort, embrace it and know that endorphins are on their way. Right, I'm going to scroll up the comments and see. So, Super Susan's with us, Patrice and Marie. Sheila's with us. Sorry, I'm late, everyone. Happy days. And never connected to warm up to endorphin release. Yep. So, because they say light to moderate exercise is one of they say the better ways to release endorphins. I think the better ways overall, on average, light to medium is a good way. I've done workouts that have just gone very quickly, or very hard, very quickly, and then trust me, the endorphins get there faster. But it's not a great thing to do. But a warm up will certainly get the process going, 100%. Yeah, sedentary. Oh my gosh, true. Feel better to having done it. Help is on the way. I like that. Yeah, it is on the way. Each week, like I say, we're going to have a topic. I'm going to try and make them as interesting as possible. There will be your classics. It's always good to revisit a classic. Don't get me wrong. But I'll try and I'll try and geek out on them as much as we can to keep these interesting with the format. And the great thing about this particular format is, remember, they are recorded, so you can watch them again later, or if you can't make the session, you can get on catch up. I know I waffled for 15 minutes on that lesson, but I'm trying to keep the lesson part to the first 5 to 10 minutes. So if you are late or watching it at a later date, you don't have to be on here for 45 minutes to an hour. You can get all the lesson in the first section. Is there any other questions at all, people? We've had a miserable day in Perth today. Rain, 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 rain. No questions from Patrice? Nope. None at this time. With all these things as well, remember that when you say you came back to the video afterwards, if you comment on the video, it's still a private video, so don't panic. If you comment on the video afterwards, I still see it. So if you have a question that comes to you later, you can either comment into the Facebook group or you could comment onto the video. And I'm always looking for different inspiration for different videos. Like somebody was asking about electrolytes. They said, can we do maybe a video on that? I was like, that's a really good idea. So electrolytes is one we might do in the near future. If there's any other, doesn't matter. There's no such thing as a silly question. I'm always looking for inspiration because remember, like, because this is what I do, I've got a whole library in my head of subjects, but I can't remember which ones you've got lots of knowledge on or which ones I've done recently. So if you've ever got questions that come to you afterwards, just fire them away. It usually gives me a bit of inspiration and direction about what kind of lesson you would benefit from. So Anne-Marie's electrolytes would be good to know more about. Yep. So that's at least 2 votes for electrolytes. So as it stands, that's likely going to be the next one unless I get a hotter option. And even if I did get a hotter option, the electrolytes would certainly be one we'd visit, if not the week after. But so far, it's looking like it's going to be electrolytes. So we can delve into that. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this live. I really, really appreciate it. And it's so much easier now that I've got over 1,000 subscribers because it means that when I'm out and about, I can go straight live from my phone, which makes life so much easier. And thank you again for engaging in the group as always. Lots and lots of engagement. Keep your morning miles coming. Keep your steps going in and your wins. I do read through them all. Typically, I try and like your post when I've read it. So if I haven't liked it and you've got something in there that you wanted me to see, just tag me in. I try and get through them all as much as I can. But the way that the Facebook forum style works, if a post keeps getting comments, it pulls it to the top. So sometimes if you've asked something and then nobody's commented on it a while, it falls down. So if you do have a question and it's been missed, all you have to do is go back down to your post and put at Coach Rab or at Rab Shields, either one. I'm in there twice now, or just comment anything on it and it'll pull it to the top. In forums gone by, people used to write bump. And I remember when I first got into this kind of forums, it's like, why do they keep writing bump? And it's because when you write on bump on a post, and you can go and test it if you don't believe me, it works on Facebook, it bumps it to the top. So any one of your posts, like Patrice, if you went to your post from 5 days ago with whatever your steps are, and you just wrote bump, it'll pull that to the top. So if I ever miss a question or anything, and if it hasn't been liked by me, I haven't seen it. So, and if there's something in there that I need to see, then just go on and either tag me or just write or comment bump, and it pulls it to the top. And based on that, you'll then understand why it does become challenging. When people are commenting and enjoying themselves, that's why things do get missed. Because although I can scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll, if there's lots of hot topics on previous comments, usually when somebody's done a really nice morning mile photo or a flower or something, people are all like, that's amazing, that's this. It keeps pulling it to the top, which is great. Bring up my post, bump. There you are. Bring up my post. Bring up my post. I didn't even realize that was an acronym. I just thought it bumped it to the top. There we go. Did not even know it. Every day's a school day. Right, everybody, have an awesome week ahead. So it's looking like electrolytes for next week, which is actually good. Love these geeky topics. Great. Right, everybody, thank you so much for joining me live, as always. And if you need anything, either get me in the group or drop me a message on any of the socials. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.